Hey, Quants. Today I'm going to be covering some recent Click Alchemy updates that I just finished. So this is really just things that I wanted myself and some of the things that I mentioned I would add in the future. In particular, we've got analytics. So if you want your YouTube analytics included in Quant Alchemy, you now have some of that and some additional features as well. So let's get into it. This is my personal account that I use for Quant Alchemy. And the first thing that I wanted to show is that you now have the ability to specify which assets were linked to a particular video. And the whole point of this is now if I say I used this title, this description, and this thumbnail with this linked video, I can discern how well those assets performed on that particular video within Quant Alchemy. And I expect that there will be an opportunity to improve the level of analytics that we get through that. But this is the first pass in terms of updating the data model to capture that information so that we can help users, including myself, figure out how well different assets are performing. So for people that do a lot of YouTube stuff, I know it's very common for them to go and change their thumbnails, and they might just do that inside of Google itself, which is, I think, a totally fine way to do it. For myself, since I'm creating all my assets in an AI type of way, and I can't do that at least not in the way that I would like to in YouTube, this tool still serves a purpose for me, and I would like to just kind of have that all in one window here. This will also open up a future feature, which couples with the fact that we now put the model that was used to generate the thumbnail, and so you could figure out how a particular video performed based on the assets that you used, and then also tie that back to the model that you used. And if you're testing out multiple different models, you would be able to have an idea of which model is actually performing the best. And so the way that this works is after you link a video, you would select your title, select your description, and I'll get on the idea of selecting a description because that's a new feature that's been added. And then also select the thumbnail that you have, and then just click Use Current Selections. And so that will update the model to say this video used those selections. And so if you put out multiple videos or multiple platforms and you use different videos, this part might be a little bit tedious. I can, until I get more feedback on it, I'm not intending on changing it, but you could, the way you would do it now, if my Rumble videos have different assets, then I would go and select those different assets that I deployed to Rumble, and then I'd say use current selection, and then those would get tied to that. And so from here, I can now look at my project analytics, and this was a video that I put out yesterday, and so I don't get a ton of views on my stuff yet, and so I did get some views. I'll have to double check this. I think I did have some views here, so I don't know if this isn't scraping properly. I might need to double check and see if the Rumble analytics are not pulling it properly. But you can see that when I do a refresh here, it's going to capture the recent statistics, and then I'll have a list of how that's performing over time. Before you pull that data, you'll have to say sync link videos, and then it'll pull down all the data, and then from there you can refresh that information. So that's what we have there as far as new features for the analytics that I mentioned I was going to capture. And this will, as I mentioned, will open up new windows of features in the future. The other one that I added was similar to and I don't think I described this one before. So if this is repetitive, I apologize. But we added the ability to be able to edit a title. And I wanted that same capability for a description because oftentimes I'll say, I'll put this link in the resources or in the description below. And what I was doing historically was I was using the template. And because this was like a one-off aspect, I didn't want to go create a new template with this specific link because I was only going to use it once. If it's something like a sponsorship or something, then you should just go create a new template or update your existing template with that sponsor. That way it gets included in every single video and you don't have to do this every time. But for a one-off, I was still hand editing that aspect in YouTube when I would paste it over to YouTube and Rumble. Now, what I would say to that is if you're only using one platform, you don't necessarily need to do this because you just hand edit it in YouTube. However, my preference is to be able to edit the description here, and then I could copy it here once and paste it into whatever platforms I'm using. Right now I'm using Rumble and I'm also using YouTube. And then the same way we have the titles shown down here, you will now see the descriptions shown here. And so the original idea behind this was that I wanted you to be able to have access to whatever AI models you created. Those were the assets that effectively you paid to get access to, and I didn't want you to lose those. And so this couples back to the history. And so now what we have is this concept of user edited values versus AI generated values. And so that is distinguished in the history right now. And all that said, if I generated a new description, I will just go ahead. I'm going to pick a cheaper model that's also going to be faster. And so I'm going to generate a new description here. And then I'm also going to wait for that to be done. And then I'm going to this is just a test here for real. And so now I've hand edited this title. It's not in the history yet, although it still does show up down here. But if I want this to persist, I will say save to list, and you will see it saved here, and it's marked with this bookmark icon. So you know this is not an AI generated title. Even though the base was, you hand edited this, and you get the same concept in the description. So if I came in here and then I said specific resource, I'm going to use the microphone to talk here, resource that I mentioned in the video. And then you are going to have some random link here that you referenced. And now, again, same concept. It's not in the list yet, but I have this save the list button. So when I say save the list, I now have this and it's active. You also have this bookmark icon as opposed to the kind of text notebook icons here. And so now you can pick whichever title. And so that hopefully is now clear when I say selected assets here. Now you understand. Before there was no concept of selecting a description because there wasn't the ability to show the descriptions down here, which was a little bit of a gap because you could still generate multiple descriptions, and the way you would have had to copy a legacy or an older description would be to go to the history. And so now let's go ahead and pop over to the history here and take a look. This is the GAN swing indicator update that I did yesterday, and so we will see all the assets here, and as I mentioned, they're separated. So we have the saved titles, which are the user essentially the user generated titles, and we have saved descriptions, which again are the user generated or edited descriptions. And then you still have access to all the AI generated details here, but they're not mixed together. There might be a better way to kind of merge these together and then just put like a kind of an icon to indicate that it was the user generated one versus the AI generated one. And that might make this look a little bit cleaner. But some of this stuff I just do one-offs, and as I get feedback, I'll continue to refine this. So there's an opportunity for improvement there that I might work on if I ever have a chance. Of course, most of this stuff nowadays is a prompt away, and then whatever level of testing it takes to test whatever the prompt did. So again, I mentioned that before. That tends to be the heavy kind of the bottleneck on most things now. But that is the updates. For those of you that are using this, I would love to hear your feedback. And if you just want to put some comments in the description, just post a comment and I will review those. And if you have any future feature updates or ideas on how we can improve this, I would love to hear those. I will always look at those and consider those for future improvements. That will be it for today, and we will catch you on the next one. Peace, quants.